And there came a day unlike... Wait, no, that's been done. Who knows what evil lurks in... No, that is that other thing. What has yellow skin and rights? Ah, forget it. You're listening to Panelology. Excelsi, oh damn it.
Welcome to episode 244 of Panelology. I'm Alex.
And I am Brian.
How's it going, Brian?
It's going all right. I had some good holidays, some good time, and good New Year. We're out of 2020 now.
We have escaped the gauntlet that has been 2020.
Indeed.
And have found ourselves in hopefully a more forgiving labyrinth 2021.
Yes. Yeah, like I wouldn't say we're out of the labyrinth yet, but like we're close enough that we should be able to find the end.
Yes. Like
that's the way I'm looking at it.
My fingers crossed. My hope for this year is that the difficulty curve just diminishes, hopefully even like exponentially.
Yes.
And like eases out so that mid-year, later in the year, like everyone can just chill for a minute.
Yes. I'm ready for the denouement.
Yes. Let's see here. What have we done? We have put out a bonus episode to talk about the March solicitations. This one's going to be pretty jam-packed. So, with that episode, as it turns out, being an hour and 10 minutes, we made the right call to let it be its own thing.
Well, yeah, we knew that was going to be a chunky one.
Yeah. We get into all of DC's March Infinite Frontiers, as well as the usual other publishers' new number ones. So check that out. And we'll probably keep spinning those out going forward, just to give them a little more room for us to talk about solicitations and give these episodes a little more room on the weeks when they come out.
Or not bloat them as much, yes.
That's really what that means, yeah.
I know.
Yeah. But speaking of bloated episodes, let's get on with it. Action Comics, number 1028.
The end of Mr. Bendis' run on Superman.
Yes. Which is very much... We talked at one point about how, I think it was in our favorite comics episode, how the Superman and the, at least Connor parts of Young Justice kind of bleed back and forth a little bit. Mm-hmm. This definitely feels like the capstone to the Connor story, too.
Yes, this is both of those.
What did you think of it?
I was happy. I liked I can't say that a ton of, like super amazing stuff happened, but it was a nice wrap up.
Yeah, like I think the thing that stood out to me, other than the scene with Connor and Superman and the geniuses, was Jonathan and Lois and having them share panel time together again. Like seeing that was nice.
It was. We get that new status quo for the Daily Planet moving forward.
We do. Oh, Jimmy taking the picture of the Chief's face was pretty great.
Yes.
But yeah, like you said, all in all, it is denouement, to borrow your word. It is just everything kind of coming to a gentle stop and shifting gears.
And we get my second favorite restaurant after Batburger.
Brian's second favorite restaurant after Batburger.
Which is Jimmy asking if they can order from Great Caesar's Toast.
Beautiful. Yes. I am very here for it.
And then, as he has done with like the shots of Lois's computer at the planet, all through this. Mm-hmm. The last panel is Lois's workstation with all the sticky notes.
Yep.
Which are absolutely Bendis's messages to other people.
Yeah, like wishing Philip Kennedy Johnson good luck and...
Yep. And thanks to Fraction's awesome ending from Jimmy Olsen. Yeah.
That was sweet. Like, that's the word for this issue. It's just kind of all around sweet.
There you go. I would agree with that, yeah.
In the opposite category, Batman Annual number 5.
Oof, wow. This was not that fun, sweet wrap up, was it?
Yeah, I think in a sentence, it's Clown Hunter goes to therapy.
I mean, essentially,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, it's a first session unofficially with Leslie Thompson. Tompkins? Tompkins.
Tom, yeah. First of all, I just want to mention the art in this,
Yes, James Stokoe.
which is just like I just love it for this issue, in particular. It just fit what they were trying to do with it. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah,
I mean, I loved it.
His art is always gorgeous, and he colors himself, which just is even wilder as detailed as it is, and as detailed as the colors are.
But essentially, what this is at its root is the origin story of Clown Hunter.
Yes,
and we get to see exactly how Harley and Joker and that scene with his parents getting killed played out.
Mm-hmm.
There was one touch that I liked in this, which made some things make more sense, right?
Yeah.
And that is, so his parents ran a pho shop, a pho restaurant, and he was there helping them when Harley walks in and basically says, her and Joker have just pulled this heist of some jewelry stores or whatever. And the Joker had told her that he'd never had pho and that she loved it, so she brought him here to try. And, so they serve them or whatever, and then Joker tells her to go get the car, essentially. So she and the henchmen leave, and it's just the Joker left in there. And then he kills the parents.
Yeah.
So he blames Harley because she brought him there, but she wasn't actually present when Joker made the decision to kill his parents and did it.
Right.
So there's and this is totally like a very human thing, right? There's that ability to justify. I think he's going to find an ability to justify to himself letting her live because she wasn't actually there and part of it.
Well, and it also like going the other direction too. She made the comment in, I guess it was issue 105, about how she didn't remember.
Correct.
But takes him at his word. And like, that explains why she earnestly could say she didn't remember, because she was not in the room.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like, I thought that was deftly handled, is I guess the best way I can say it.
Yeah. And I really like the way Leslie is written in this issue.
Yes.
Just very patient and very firm but gentle. And very clear in, we may not agree about violence, but I hope that through talking, you will come around in rejecting it.
Yeah, well, and I love that I love that he was not afraid to ask her, well, if you are so against violence and don't believe in violence, how are you friends with Batman?
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's like, well, because friends don't have to agree on everything in the right way, and that doesn't mean they can't be friends.
Yeah.
Essentially is her response. And I hope one day I can change his mind. Like, oh, hey, what a well-reasoned and adult answer.
I'm glad there's one well-adjusted person in Gotham.
In Gotham, right? I know.
The one, the only, Leslie Tompkins.
Oh boy, yeah. But yeah, we definitely see Clown Hunter, and I love how she also we find out fairly early that in a scene that she puts on like one night a week does an anger management clinic, right? And like clearly, this kid needs it, but she doesn't invite him to the session. She invites him to help her set up and like pass out flyers and stuff for the anger management session.
Yeah.
Then knowing that he would be there for it. But yes.
See, I thought you were going to mention the very burly gentleman.
Oh yeah, no, I liked him too. He was very.
At the beginning of the issue, there is someone trying to bug Leslie, and this big burly dude stops. I was like, no, you don't understand. She runs this clinic, and someday she's gonna patch you up. And I don't like people who hurt my friends. So you want to reconsider your choices.
Yeah, Big Henry.
Big Henry.
Yes.
New favorite character.
Yeah. So good.
Moving on to Dark Knight's Death Metal. Let's start with the secret origin.
Alrighty.
I was very pleasantly surprised by this issue.
So was I. This is a character that I have not really liked much in the past.
Yeah.
But I really liked how he was handled here. This is Superboy Prime.
Yeah, I think we've joked about it before. I have really no working knowledge of Superboy Prime, so this was very much an introduction for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it works really well from that standpoint too.
Yep. So for those of you who, for whatever reason, may not know, back in pre-Crisis on Infinite Earths, in the original kind of DC multiverse, Earth Prime was the Earth that we live on. That was how it was defined.
Even true in the New 52 Rebirth era.
Right.
It is
so
also not the same thing as Earth 1, which is where like Batman Earth 1, Superman Earth 1, those books take place.
Correct. It is not the only unpowered.
Yeah.
Yes. Or, originally unpowered, whatever. Anyway, and everything that happens, on what used to be called Earth 1 and Earth 2, Justice Society and Justice League Earths, right?
Yeah.
Were comic books, just like literally it was supposed to be originally, it was the real world, because in the couple of instances before the Superboy Prime thing happened, that there was ever contact with Earth Prime, it was generally they're meeting the writers somehow type thing.
Animal Man goes and hangs with Grant Morrison.
Exactly. So, this is kind of a quick recap history of the origin of Superboy. And one of the things I love is it starts with his parents named him Clark Kent after Clark Kent from the comic book.
Yes. He was also an orphan adopted.
He was. And it starts out with him in a drugstore with a spinner rack of comics. And I don't know if you know this, Alex, but that spinner rack of comics are legit actual covers of comic books from DC from 1984.
I definitely recognized some of them as being covers I had seen. I couldn't have told you they're all from that year.
Oh, they absolutely are, because I think I own like 90% of them. Yes. Yeah. And that was just kind of cool.
Amazing.
Like clever little addition there. But yeah, so and basically what we find out from Superboy Prime is he had a friend named Lori who, and we know this from his original origin, who they ended up, she's kind of like a Lana Lang type character to him, right? That he kind of grew up with, but they ended up becoming romantically involved, and had planned out that they were high school sweethearts and they were going to get married and all this. And then the Crisis on Infinite Earths happened that reduced everything to a single world, and Earth Prime was destroyed as part of it. And so he lost everybody that he cared about, and he was the only survivor of Earth Prime.
Yeah.
But as part of it also, he gained actual legit superpower. There you go. And this is him in this final battle of death metal, and how he handles that. Because I think it was Infinite Crisis, which was the second Crisis series. He ends up being the bad guy at the end of it.
Right, which is where we see him introduced into death metal when
Correct.
Wonder Woman goes into Infinite Crisis.
Correct. And the reason he was the bad guy is he was essentially trying to destroy that one Earth to recreate all of the Earths again, because he wanted his world back.
Right.
Yeah. That was, which, is an understandable motivation, but, still bad.
Yeah.
So,
don't do that.
Yeah. But literally everybody here, like, nobody trusts him. Nobody wants to be around him. They're all like, yeah, this guy's bad news. Except for one character. Who is the character that accepts him, Alex?
That would be Crypto.
Good boy. Yeah. And he doesn't even want to like Crypto.
No.
but he can't not like Crypto.
And he definitely can't be seen liking Crypto.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. It is. It is truly, truly wonderful. So then we get these, Batman Who Laughs created, or the Darkest Knight created, Earth's, supermen who come to fight as part of this battle. And as part of that, Superboy Prime actually goes to confront the Darkest Knight and essentially sacrifices himself to delay or, basically damage him enough that they got a chance.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about it is he makes the sacrifice and it's done in a place where nobody knows it's him.
Yeah. It remains a mystery.
Except for Crypto.
Except for Crypto.
Who is there and who howls that he is fallen. But then we get this interesting thing where when he dies, it then pulls back out and we see Clark Kent on Earth Prime reading a comic book.
Like in his bedroom from the beginning of the story?
Yeah. And he's reading this comic book. Right? And Lori shows up and he's like, you know what? Yeah, let's go. And he now has a dog, which he never had before.
A very Crypto dog.
Yes. And he, we find out that, he never actually got those powers on the beach that time. But then he goes out and there's a kid who's about to get hit by a car and he runs to stop him because, and literally it's the scene from Action Comics,
with the green
Superman
car,
picks up the car. Yeah. And yeah, that's kind of the end of this. So it's almost like a new origin now for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And a happy ending, finally.
Right. Yeah. It's like, okay, this could be okay, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was enjoyable.
It was, I think, a really clever issue.
Exactly.
Then we have War of the Multiverses, which reminds me a lot structurally of last stories of the DC multiverse.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's an anthology.
Yeah, last stories of the DC universe, that was it.
Right.
Where we have sort of the framing device and everything is taking place basically at the same time. Mm-hmm. And the framing device is the fight between Wonder Woman and the Darkest Knight that we see at the end of Death Metal number 6.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially the Darkest Knight is trying to show her that it's not worth fighting, that everyone will die. And that's what all of these stories are, is basically every character featured falling in battle in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Or, for instance, the Raven one, all of the other Titans fall in battle.
Right. Yeah. So do we want to just kind of do a quick run through of what the different stories are?
Yeah, let's keep it quick, but let's hit those beats.
Okay. So we've got Wonder Woman. We've got the Wonder Woman framing story in what's called Fight, and that's by Josh Williamson, Scott Snyder.
Yep.
Dexter Soy and Scott Koblish are the artists on that. Then we have a Superman story called First and Last Men by Magdalene Visaggio.
Yep, with Paul Pelletier on pencils and Norm Rapmund.
Batman and the Batmen Who Laugh, which we can talk about that one. That was interesting.
Yeah. Well, the Superman one, real quick before we move on.
I was going to go back and talk about a little bit. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about him as let's
okay.
Do it all
well, that's fine. Yeah, let's do that. So we kind of talked about the Wonder Woman, about this framing device, and there's a little bit of flashback to Diana as a young girl on Themyscira, but it's mostly this framing device of setup for the rest of these stories here. Yeah.
Superman, we see a fight with those same Supermen from last stories.
Mm-hmm.
And it's worth noting here, you can either find on Magdalene Visaggio's Twitter, or I think comicbook.com rounded everything up. Apparently these Supermen were supposed to figure in more.
I can definitely imagine that.
And there are backstories and ideas for each of them. Basically, they're from a future where Clark Kent Kal-El Superman has been thrown into the sun and turned into a weapon, and these are his descendants who have done this, and one is like based on Connor and is a descendant of Connor, one is based on John and is a descendant of John, and then the other is based on the Eradicator.
And if you know that, you can very easily tell which one is which. Yes.
But I thought it was a really good Superman story, all about hope.
Oh, I do. I agree too. And just about the time that they're going to be overwhelmed by these, they get some reinforcements in the form of Hank Henshaw, Cyborg Superman, Luthor, and Zod.
Yep.
Who are like essentially the we don't like them either, but you can't do this to our Supermen. Only we can do this to our Supermen. Yes. Yeah.
We can't keep torturing him if we're dead.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Then we move on to Batman in the Batman Who Laugh.
And this is interesting. This is Bruce Wayne Batman and the Batman Who Laughs, which is clearly from a different So the original Batman Who Laughs clearly has now ascended to become the Darkest Knight.
Yes.
This is a Batman Who Laughs who is clearly then from some other world that the Darkest Knight has created. No? Okay.
This is the corpse of the Batman Who Laughs, which Bruce Wayne Batman
got it.
brought back to life with the Black Lantern ring.
Unlife or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now I got you. Yep.
Because the entire shtick here is, I knew you would bring me back with that ring, so I planted Lazarus water on my body so that it would restore me and I wouldn't be controlled by you. He's like, well, didn't you think I would think of that and clean that off? Well, one up.
Yes. And essentially, gets to a point which this was super clever to me. What we find out is that this Batman Who Laughs has come to the realization that it doesn't matter who wins, because if the Darkest Knight wins, everything's gone and, doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah.
Right? But if the heroes win, then his goal is to kill enough people that he will always be remembered and feared, so that people will have nightmares about him, which will then continuously respawn him in the dark multiverse.
Yep.
I'm like, damn, that's a meta play right there.
And I don't think we said, by the way, this is written by James Tynion with art by Alex Maleev. Yeah.
And the colorist was Matt Hollingsworth.
Yep.
And Batman comes back and then says, yeah, the only person you have to make fear you is me. He's like, damn, I do need you alive. Well, shit.
And then Batman dies.
And then yep. It's so good.
Then we move on to The Atom in Unstable Atoms, written by Kyle Higgins, with art by Scott Collins and colors by John Kalish.
Yeah. And this is something I think is going to set up something we're going to see in Dark Metal number 7.
Yeah.
Death Metal number 7. Yeah. With the Metal Men.
Right.
Yeah. Because essentially it's Mr. Terrific and Ryan Joy and Will Magnus. And what they have done is they have essentially taken the Metal Men and combined them with the T-Spheres. Yeah. And I don't know, we're not sure exactly what they're going to do with them, but they're going to somehow then try to use them too.
Yeah.
And Ryan Joy's like, yeah, this isn't going to work. This is impossible. Like, scientifically, it doesn't make sense that we can make this work. And then he has this encounter with his with a version of himself created by Darkest Knight,
called Ra, which is the atomic symbol for radium.
Right. And like fighting him and in these powers comes to realize that, yeah, this guy shouldn't be able to exist at all scientifically, and yet somehow he does. So we live in a universe where things that shouldn't be allowed to happen do. And so maybe what we're doing isn't hopeless. And yeah, he actually does kind of a giant man thing where he grows bigger than a person and defeats Ra, and he's like, yeah, I should have been able to do that.
Oops,
But
physics don't matter. I guess we got this.
yeah. So that's like, okay, that's wow.
Then we get the confrontation between Lois Lane and evil superhero killing Lois Lane.
Yeah, this was an interesting one. Yep. I thought this was one of the more like thought-provoking ones.
I did too. This is called No More Superheroes, written by Regine Sawyer. Penciler is Aletha Martinez, inker is Mark Morales, and colorist is Emilio Lopez.
Yeah, and essentially this is a Darkest Night world where Superman came down and Lois came to the realization that superheroes would cause all of this escalation of power type thing, essentially, to a point where regular people would be so hurt and injured and killed and all of this, and the devastation would be so great that the best thing they could do would be to kill all of these heroes. And so she starts by killing Superman. And then they've killed essentially what I guess would be all of them.
Yeah.
On her world. And it is her confronting and capturing Lois from our world and saying, I can help you make things better. Like, I know what's best. Join me and let's fix your world too.
Join me and together we shall rule the galaxy.
Yeah. Like, this is after she straight up fucking... Oh, by the way, she kind of has Superman's powers now.
Yeah.
She took them from him. And so she straight up fucking heat decapitates Maxima. Right. Damn. Yeah. And like when I say that she killed Superman, she cut off his head.
Yeah.
Like not just
using amber kryptonite.
Oh my god. Yeah, and she takes Lois and drops her from like a great height, and we don't know what's going to happen yet. But the point is, what she was trying to do was she was trying to get Lois to scream in order to call Superman there, so that she could kill him. And Lois is refusing to scream.
Yeah. I mean, I think so many of these end with the characters that are about dying and end with an end title card. This one ends with that end title card too. I think we do know what's supposed to happen here. Lois just falls.
Yes.
Lois doesn't call out.
Right.
Yep. Then we get Raven in Falling Through the Cracks, written by Che Grayson, with artists by Popman and colors by Chris Sotomayor.
Mm-hmm. Essentially, we get our Teen Titans versus a dark turn version of Teen Titans, where they came to the conclusion that if they gave in to Trigon and his influence, that it would be a better choice than just continuing to try to fight, and they could use that power to do things. Clearly, that's bad.
Yeah. So they kill off their Justice League and all of that too.
Yeah, so we get to see basically essentially dark versions of Starfire, Robin, Beast Boy, Red Arrow, Aqualad, and Raven. And clearly this Raven has given in to her father's influence and is a demon chick in badass armor. Yeah.
Then, from Marguerite Bennett and Inaki Miranda, with colors by Eva de la Cruz, the Penguin in Apicus.
This is the other one that was like, this one surprised me.
It surprised me too. I was convinced I was misreading it somehow because I did not. It was so out of left field.
That's exactly right. It's like, wait. There's like all of this, like, like literally multiple, I don't know, what are we talking, like 8 or 10 Supermen or super people fighting each other, and like all, 2 Teen Titans teams going at each other, and Penguin.
And Penguin fighting 3 other penguins, one of whom eats him and then irradiates him, turning him into a giant dinosaur bird.
Yeah.
That then destroys and eats these other penguins.
Yeah. So we essentially get like Thin Man Penguin, right? We get Beastmaster Penguin who has weaponized and clearly like evolved into monsters penguins.
Yep.
And then we get this one who absorbed his parents and is now this giant blob creature, irradiated blob creature. And like the penguin from the canon Earth is like, oh, this is bullshit. This is what you think is people are gonna remember and what they want on other worlds and this and that. Hell no. This will not stand. I am not my legacy is not gonna be a boogeyman, a sadist, and a city supporting Oedipal freak. No. Yeah. So yeah, he lets the blob one eat him, which then irradiates him and transforms into this giant flying bird penguin pterodactyl creature.
Yep.
Who then just wrecks the rest of them. And yeah.
Yep.
That was it.
After that, we have John Constantine in Armageddon Blues, written by Matthew Rosenberg, drawn by Rob Galori, and colors by Marissa Louise.
Did you pick up on what he was doing in this one as you read it?
I did. Look, as someone who listens to a lot of Hey Riddle Riddle,
Yeah.
I absolutely
right,
did.
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It was super easy. Yeah, like even before the ice actually showed up, when he goes up to pull. So essentially, what happens is there's another version of John Constantine, and they're fighting each other.
Yeah.
And this one has never grown out of his
punk rock
metal phase.
Yeah, metal phase.
Right.
Oh right,
and
metal.
So,
that makes sense, huh?
Yeah, exactly. One might even say death metal. And so our John Constantine basically says, okay, fine, you're going to defeat me. I give up, but at least let me go have a drink first. And the other one's like, yeah, okay, I can do that. So they go have a drink together, as you do when you're two John Constantine.
And like most of this issue is just them sitting there like comparing different choices they've made, which I fucking love.
I know, right? But literally, they walk in the bar, and our John Constantine goes, so I assume you prefer this on the rocks. And as soon as he said that, I was like, oh, I know how this is going.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. And then, he pours one neat for himself. And sure enough, they start drinking and talking and all this stuff. And he's like, all right, so you ready for me to kill you? And he's like, yeah, I will do anything to survive, which is why I poisoned the ice cubes that are in your drink. Because you clearly see the other guy waiting for him to drink first.
Yeah.
Before he'll drink from it, right? And very.
And our last one is Swamp Thing in Reign of the Swamp King, written by Justin Jordan, drawn by Mike Henderson, colors by Adriano Lucas.
Yeah. And this is essentially, I thought this was clever too. This was a Swamp Thing who talks about how he is similar in ways to Frankenstein, to Clayface, Solomon Grundy, who else?
Anton Arcane and Abby.
Brimstone.
Oh.
No, Brimstone. Which was, if you remember, Brimstone was
Curse of Brimstone. Whatever that was that spun out of the original Dark Knight's Metal. I forget.
Silencer, and there was a couple
Sideways.
others,
I forget the name of that imprint.
Yeah. I do too. But yes, how he's similar in some ways to them, but slightly different. And there is essentially the dark version of the Dark Universe, whatever version of Swamp Thing is one who was the avatar of the green. He subsumed the red. He gained all the powers of the red as well.
Yep.
When the Parliament of Trees tried to stop him, he killed them, and also absorbed the rot.
Yep.
So basically, he has at least 3 of the
5.
Maybe it's all 5. Yeah, I didn't
really... 3 of the 5. We don't address
3 of the 5.
The water the divided.
But he has all of these powers, right?
Yeah.
But what Swamp Thing comes to realize is the reason that he did this is when he was transformed, he lost the soul of Alec Holland.
Yes.
So essentially there was no humanity to him to prevent him from doing these things.
All monster, no man.
Right. And so he gets Solomon Grundy and all of these others to attack to essentially kind of distract the Swamp King so he can get close enough so that when the Swamp King has to face him like face to face and actually in melee fight him, and knowing he's not going to win, but when he does, when the Swamp King kills him and absorbs him and takes his power, he also takes the soul of Alec Holland.
Yeah, they merge, essentially.
They merge, right. And so he gains a soul, is kind of the thought behind that.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. And then, of course, we only have one issue of Death Metal left coming out this week. We wrap up all of this.
Yeah. And wow.
Moving on, Endless Winter. 3 issues to wrap this one up. I don't feel like we necessarily need to go through these one by one.
Nope. I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I agree with that.
I think the main thing I want to talk about here is the way this pretty clearly seems to feed into Justice League in March.
Yes.
Over the course of, I think, these 3 issues in particular, but this arc as a whole, we get a lot of Black Adam posturing as a real hero where the Justice League has failed.
Right. Like they're not willing to do what's necessary, and when they try, they're namby-pamby, as he would put it, whatever approach is, inefficient, ineffective.
And we see a lot of him and Superman butting heads about approach in these issues. And I think that sets up a really interesting status quo for a Justice League book where Black Adam is on the team. And where Hippolyta, who also does not really have any use for Black Adam, is on the team.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the other things. They very clearly position her to be more involved so that when that happens, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
Other than that, I think you get a lot of the beats you maybe expect from this in very satisfying ways. I like that. I like the way that the conflict with the Frost King is resolved.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's one of those kind of classic Justice League things where essentially they talk him down for now type thing.
Yeah.
And because they can't save his family, they put him in cryostasis until they can solve how to cure all of them. So, it's something that can come back at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like that it's humane and not just, we've beaten him to a pulp and whatever. All right, moving on to maybe my favorite book of this week. Jinny Hex, special number 1.
Oh, yeah. See, I knew I was going to like this book.
Yeah, there was no question.
I am very happy that I liked it as much or more than I thought I would.
Yes. So this is one of our longtime favorites, Magdalene Fazaggio, writing.
Yeah.
Gleb Melnikov is on art, and colors by Luis Guerrero.
Yeah. Man.
So, when this was announced, Magdalene Fazaggio tweeted out that her goal for this issue was not in and of itself to write a thing that kicks off a new story, because it was just an issue, but to populate the world around Jinny Hex with supporting characters so that someone could start telling stories about her and her friends and family. And I would say that this issue succeeds 100% in that goal.
Absolutely. Yes. Because, quite honestly, the supporting characters and some of the things around are the best parts of this.
Lady Bird
is awesome. Yes. So essentially we find out that, her mom has left her this repair, this garage, auto garage. That was her grandfather's, apparently. And so, it kind of has been the home base for the Hex family for a while. And by the way, I love that it is Hex Auto Repair, HECK''S,
Yes.
which leads to some fun. And then we find out that her mom loved bad jokes.
The number of bad jokes in this book gave me life. Talk about a book tailor written for my stupid sensibilities.
Yeah. Well, and like it starts out with it starts out with a picture of the garage, right? And we see Hex Auto Repair, right? And then as we zoom in, we see one close up shot, one panel close up of the sign, and we see that there's actually a marquee above it, and written on the marquee are "Car puns are exhausting." I'm like, oh, this is gonna be like that, is it?
It is.
So
How does Batman stop Calendar Man?
he punches him in the weak spot. Yes. Yeah, it's those.
So good.
It's beautiful.
So fucking good.
So they are Jinny and her assumed best friend that she calls Lady Bird.
Yeah, that is her name, Lady Bird.
Yeah, right. Are in her garage along with Alex, who is clearly somebody that was a mechanic hired for the garage, right?
I read as like other friend from school, like of the same age.
I think that too,
yeah.
But like I also got the impression that he was a mechanic.
Yes. Well, they leave
worked in the garage.
At the end of this. They leave him running the shop.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. And this stranger shows up who is dressed kind of as a he's wearing a cowboy hat and this kind of thing, and is asking for Jinny Hex. And we find out that this is probably Jinny's father.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jack.
That he knew Jinny's mom 20 years ago, and this whole thing. So she spends a week or so with him, and of course then he's awful. Oh, by the way, can I say? So part of the thing during this week is she makes the decision to show him the chest, trunk that holds the Hex family weird stuff from Jonah's Hex's old days. And what do they have covering this trunk so that it's not just like out in the open, Alex?
Oh shoot! What was on it?
It was like a towel or a blanket.
Yeah, it was some sort. It was like
It was Guy Gardner.
Guy Gardner, that's who it was.
It's like a Guy Gardner blanket. It's like, oh my god.
I wanted to say Thor because I was getting like kind of lunkheaded and drunk.
Come on, man. So good.
Talk about people who Batman punches on the weak spot.
But yeah, so they come back, and sure enough, this guy has gotten the chest and has essentially robbed Jinny. Even though it turns out it probably is really her dad.
Yeah.
And bakes off with the chest, and we find out that what he's after is a specific item called the God's Eye he had, and that he takes it and puts it into his head,
which is super disturbing and very cool.
It is. And actually, so we actually find out when she goes and tracks him down, that it turns him into, you had mentioned his name earlier, but when he puts the God's Eye in his forehead and gives him another eye, he becomes Three-Eyed Jack. And
here for the punning.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. So he has kind of recreated the town in this Old West style with the power of this God Sphere.
We should also mention that he is immortal because of the first time he touched the God Sphere.
Yeah, we should probably mention that.
Because he did hang out with Jonah Hex, who ran into Jonah Hex, who took the God Sphere from him.
Yeah, essentially, we kind of get his history at one point where he sought out and found the God Sphere and hired Jonah Hex to help protect him to get to it. And Jonah recognized that it would be bad if this guy had it, so he took it away from him.
Yeah.
Which is how it ended up in the trunk. And he essentially sought out Jenny's mom, 20 years ago and formed a relationship with her in order to try to find it, but never did because didn't know about the trunk.
Yeah.
Right. And so then when he found out that, she didn't have it, he left. That's why he left her. Didn't know that she was pregnant. And so when he read about her death and Jinny, he came back to investigate, and that's when, and Jinny showed him the trunk, so that's how he got the God Sphere back. But yeah, there we go. So bad news. He's awful. But yeah, Jinny and Lady Bird. Essentially, we find out that his body is now to the point though that it can't support the power of the God Sphere. So he essentially takes over Lady Bird.
Yeah, his plan was to take Jinny and her body.
Right.
But
Yes.
Jinny stops him, so he tries to possess Lady Bird. Jinny stops him, so he dies, which he'll get better. But Jinny takes the God Sphere, so he no longer has it.
Right.
Which leaves Lady Bird with some kind of superpowers, and the two of them go on a road trip.
Yeah, well, and then I love he takes and he's like, yeah, God, the youth of this body, and I don't look half bad either. And then Jenny's response is, Lady Bird's gonna be pissed if you stretch your butt out, if you let your butt stretch out those pants. They're designer, right? And then we find out that Lady Bird is resisting him from the inside, right?
Yeah,
and essentially fighting back, which gives her the chance to basically reach in and pull the God Sphere out, right? To which she was like, Jenny says, I wasn't going to let him corrupt the person who means the most to me in this whole dumb world. And Lady Bird goes, yeah, also, he couldn't stop thinking about my butt. Man, dudes are disgusting. I thought that was hilarious.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, so Lady Bird has these residual powers kind of left in her, and her and Jinny decide to go on a road trip.
Anyway, so everyone has to buy 2 copies of this, so DC turns it into a at least mini-series.
Yes. This is so good. Yeah, but like this, yeah, it is totally fleshed out where somebody could easily turn this into something more.
Yep.
And I can only hope
Give
that
me
they
the
do.
same creative team even. Like, just...
Sure.
Yeah. Alright, moving on. Avengers, number 40. I'm going to be pretty quick on this one.
Okay.
But this kicks off the return of the Phoenix Force, which was summoned by Moon Knight a couple of issues ago. And essentially is now forcing various Avengers cast members to fight for the right to be the Phoenix. None of them wants it, other than Doctor Doom.
So you're saying they've got to fight for the right to Phoenix?
Yes. Yes. But essentially the Phoenix is pitting them against each other, and whoever wins has to become its new host. And I want to just sort of give a quick rundown of, on the last page, we see sort of the roster for this fight. Cap, Black Panther, She-Hulk, Namor, Wolverine. So far, like, names you'd expect, right?
Definitely.
I believe this character is Red Wolf.
Okay.
There's the Eyeball. You know, the eyeball who's like a giant eyeball on a body.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Shang-Chi.
Okay.
A hooded character who I assume is the Hood. Black Knight. Man-Thing. Luke Cage. Sentry. Shauna the She-Devil. Jane Foster Valkyrie. Lunella and Devil Dinosaur. And Howard the Duck.
Oh, shit.
So, I don't know what the Phoenix Force is thinking, but it's definitely choosing a wide variety of contenders.
Wow. Ow. Well, I mean, maybe not in this battle, but at some point we do know one of those people will definitely be a host for the Phoenix Force.
Yeah,
We know Wolverine will get it at some point.
that's true.
Because he has it at the end of time.
That's very true.
Yeah.
It's also a good Captain America issue, just side note.
Very cool.
Yeah, we get a lot of Cap in this one.
Okay,
King
sorry.
in Black roundup. We're going to talk King in Black number 2, King in Black, Iron Man, Doctor Doom, and Spider-Woman number 7. First, King in Black number 2. At the end of the last issue, Eddie gets thrown off a building. The most recent issue of Venom is very much like that scene in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where we get the whale's monologue as it falls. The last issue of Venom was The Fall. This issue starts with The Landing, which is painful and ultimately probably lethal.
Oh?
Spidey goes to get Dylan out of the bunker and tries to, like, be there for him, while Reed Richards and Tony Stark are on their bullshit. Tony builds a suit to let him steal a symbiote off a dragon to try to attach it to Eddie to revive him, which goes badly. And Reed realizes, oh hey, Dylan, you can remove symbiotes from people. Cool, let's weaponize you, a child.
When did Reed become Batman?
I know, right? And then as Reed is having his epiphany, Eddie flatlines. That takes us pretty directly into King in Black, Iron Man / Doctor Doom, which is a one-shot. I know I've talked about this before because the premise is so batshit insane that it is maybe the single most must-read issue of all the King in Black stuff to me.
Well, if you have any doubts, Santa in his sleigh is on the cover of this.
Yeah, so this picks up basically right after King in Black number 2. Tony is kicking himself for basically having killed Eddie Brock and their one kind of competitive advantage on Null when he sees Doctor Doom, and then the two of them see Santa Claus flying in a sleigh through the sky with reindeer. And Santa and the reindeer have all been nullified.
Of course they have.
And these are words that are about to come out of my mouth. Jesus. Iron Man and Doctor Doom fight Santa and his reindeer to restore Santa Claus to his usual jolly self. It is batshit insane and art with a capital A.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It is gorgeous.
Oh no, it's beautiful too, but I mean just it is this book, this story I think transcends artistic medium and is now the platonic ideal of what art is.
I understand, yes.
Yeah. Then we have Spider-Woman number 7, which you're going to tell us about, Brian.
Yeah, this is a kind of interlude to deal with a creature from Jessica's search for a cure for the essentially disease that is killing her and her niece and potentially at some point her son.
Yep.
So I read like 3 of these to get caught up today, and she is not in a good place right now.
No, this book gets very dark. Like the series
Holy
as a whole.
Crap, yeah. And so essentially Carol has pulled her out of this search to help defend the clinic that the night nurse runs. And also there are Power Man and Iron Fist and Hawkeye, Clint Martin. And there's this symbiote creature, and it turns out that Carol can't use her energy blasts because they need to save them for, I'm assuming, when Null actually appears.
Yeah, depending on like when this is set.
Yeah, well, she mentioned something about I can't use them right now because I have to keep them in reserve.
Yeah.
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 And the thing that this creature is weak to is apparently energy blasts.
Gotcha.
Right. So that's why she pulled in Jessica to help fight this.
Cool.
And so Jessica gets the night nurse to give her like 4 vials of this thing. So the interim serum that Jessica is taking to keep her from dying makes her stronger when she takes it, but also essentially makes her not care about what happens to other people around her and makes her stronger and angrier. So think more Hulk, but like also I don't give a shit anymore.
Yeah. Joe Fix-It.
Yeah, exactly. So she takes like 4 of these at the same time to get the energy boost she needs to fight this creature.
Oh, good.
Yeah, no, not. It's not. Because
hey, Brian.
Yeah.
This is a complete tangent. But do you think in the Marvel Universe there are Hulk-branded energy drinks?
Oh, duh.
Does Red Hulk give you wings?
He gave Betsy Ross wings. There you go.
And there it is.
There it is.
Anyway, as you were saying.
Yeah, so she takes this creature down easily after this. And then when Carol tries to talk her down and calm her down, she beats the shit out of Carol. And then Luke Cage and Danny try to step in, and Danny fights her, and she beats them up. Like, literally, there's kind of no stopping her at this point until Carol then comes back and, like, does not hold back at all in hitting her, which drops her just long enough for the night nurse to put some energy cuffs that Stephen Strange left for her on her and drag her down to the basement where she has a what do they call it? A Hulk tank,
Okay.
which is a Tony Stark designed device to hold the Hulk. And Clint is like, Linda, honey, why do you have a Hulk tank in your basement? You ever tried to give Bruce a shot? Dude is not good with needles. And then they essentially discover that this device may not hold her in her current state.
Oh no.
Like, this is how powerful she is right now. Yeah. And Carol gets called, like, I'm assuming because of the null thing happening, to go help, and like has to leave. And so they're all okay. And so she breaks free of the restraints easily. And then they are hoping that the force field will hold her. And so they leave, and she starts cracking the force field, and then Octavia shows up again, and that's where we're left going into next issue.
Good old Octavia.
Yeah, which has to do with her, and yeah, so like she is not in a good place right now. Yeah.
Well, something perhaps a little more upbeat. Power Pack number 2.
Oh my god. I am loving this so much. So if you remember where we left off with the last issue,
somebody's going to emergency, somebody's going to jail?
Yeah, Power Pack's going to jail, yes. That sounds about right. Because they are they get confronted by Cradle because of Kamala's law. And I like the argument that goes in this is just one of my favorite things. So yeah, Alex is like, hey, it doesn't matter. I'm over 21. I can act as mentor to them, and we're all good. She's like, yeah, I saw something in your files about you spent time in space, and there's like some relativistic effects and stuff going on, but we don't know exactly what that means. And I have a birth record that shows that you're clearly under 21, and you surrounded yourself with minors, and you're trying to use technobabble to get out of this. So I'm gonna call you not an adult and arrest you. Come on, how is that fair? That is so unfair. And the fact that you essentially did a variation of no fair means there's no doubt that you're a child in my mind. Yes. Yep. So then this character called Agent Ether shows up, Aether, and says, "Oh well, you know what? I can act as their mentor." And she's like, yeah, no, they needed a mentor before they did this, so we're gonna haul them off. And then Julie steps up because Julie is the best.
Julie is the best.
And says, officer, you really don't want to do this. And she's like, I'll assure you, dude, there's nothing you literal children can say. And she's like, well, see, the law says that it's anyone under 21, right? But they don't exactly define what under 21 means. And so, given that he does have this relativistic age thing going on, and that it's likely to devolve into an unresolved legal issue of identity and self, this could easily be a case that goes to the Supreme Court. And if that happens and they define it differently, there's a good chance it could null and void all of Kamala's law itself, which I don't think you want happening. So, maybe you should recognize him right now as 21, and or at least accept Aether as our mentor right now and let us go. And she's like, oh my god, I so don't want to deal with this. Fine, you have like 24 hours to find and register a mentor, or I will be back to arrest you.
I feel like Julie needs She-Hulk as her mentor, because that's going to be a good reference on law school applications.
Oh no, welcome to what is the next 24 hours, which is them going in search of a mentor. Because they all have different ideas of who their mentor should be, right?
Yep.
And let's see. Well, first of all, Agent Aether offers to be their mentor, and they're like, yeah, well, we don't know you, so if you don't like, thank you, but we're gonna go find, right? We're gonna go find one, right? And so they set out to talk about who their mentor should be or whatever. And essentially, Alex is like, I think we should find somebody who just will let us do our own thing. Clearly, we know what we're doing. Basically a sign off, right?
Yeah.
And Katie's like, "Ooh, I call Spider-Man." She's like, "No, I don't think he's old enough." Julie, he's called Spider-Man, not Spider-Boy. When you get older, Jack says that. Julie, he's called Spider-Man, not Spider-Boy. Duh. When you get older, Jack, you'll realize calling yourself a man when you're still a boy is 100% thing a boy would do.
It's true.
Yeah. To which Julie then says, I think we need to find somebody who's sensible who could actually teach us something. So I vote for Captain Marvel. To which Jack's response is, you just want her because she's pretty. No, I want her because she's got energy powers, which are Katie adjacent, plus flight, which kind of covers the rest of us in some way. And yes, she's also a babe, but she can't help that. It happens to the best of us. I love it. And then he's like, no, we need somebody who's strong, who's the strongest. And like the other three just put their heads in their hands and go, the Hulk. Yeah, the Hulk. So like, yeah, like I said, they have this whole thing, and he's like, then that's when Alex says, I don't know, I want somebody who will just do the job in name only and leave us free to be ourselves. Heck, I don't know, someone like Frog Thor. And then of course Katie and Jack look at each other and go, Frog Thor.
Frog Thor is the right answer.
The next thing is them literally going around to try to find Captain Marvel and Frog Thor, to which they go to Asgard, and Sif is there, and he's like, "Yeah, Thor's not here. He's busy running an entire realm right now." And they're like, "Okay, but what about Frog Thor?" I would direct thee to the signs, children. To which they turn, and there's a sign that says, "No, we do not know where Frog Thor is, and verily 'tis insulting when thee suggest a Midgardian frog makes a perfectly viable substitute for our literal king, forsooth." Now do you know why I love this comic, Alex?
I do.
Okay.
100%.
Yes. Then they make the mistake of trying to actually try to find Hulk, and they're like, "Yeah, we'd like to find him too." To which he's like, "Yeah, and kids, you probably don't want to go anywhere near him." And Jack goes, "Aw, Hulk smashed my feelings." Yeah, he'll do that, kids. Then they go to Monster Island and ask Deadpool. And then they ask Tony Stark, and he's like, "No, I can't do that right now, and that would be a really bad idea anyway. Me mentoring kids."
I mean, I feel like there's an obvious answer here, which is in fact Reed Richards,
Right. Yeah.
because at least 2 of them have been his student at this point.
Yeah, and of course, where this comes back to is eventually they call and ask Agent Aether if he would do it, right?
Yeah.
Or to interview him at least, which I do love. Is the idea was they were going to interview them for who could be their mentor. And he comes in and he's like, so if you were our mentor, how would this work? And he was like, I spent a long time thinking about this and like, fighting and stopping people from taking purses from people. But like, it's so small. And I did a lot of studying. And what I figured out is if you really want to stop crime and have the single biggest impact on the world, the best way to do that would be to provide free energy to people. Because if you can provide free energy to the people, you decrease crime, you raise the standard of living for people, like all of this stuff that makes like real world sense, but like is kind of boring, right? And eventually they're like, I mean, yeah, I guess, but and so he explains how power plants work, that like essentially there's all these different ways for generating what is essentially a way to heat up water to turn turbines to make electrical energy, right? Because that's true. That's essentially what all power plants do in some form or another.
Yeah.
And how, instead of burning fuel, Katie could just throw energy balls into water to heat it up, or Zero G could alternate a wheel to spin it to generate, on a turbine to spin things, and like the different ways that they could actually generate power, and that would be the greatest way they could contribute to helping people. And they're like, well, I mean, never thought of that, and it's kind of boring, but I guess it does kind of make sense, right? To which they talk it over, and they're like, yeah, okay, well, I guess we'll do it. And so they go home and they go back to their parents, and they had told their parents they were at the library all day, and to which they did go to the library for like 20 minutes just so it wouldn't be a lie. I love child logic.
Yep.
And so they get home and they're like, oh, kids, what'd you do today? And they're like, it was great. We didn't. And I learned what power plants are, how power plants work. And then we find out that that Agent Aether is, of course, someone in disguise, and it's really the Wizard.
Oops.
Oopsie. Yeah. But like so good.
Awesome.
So good. God, I love this.
Meanwhile, on Krakoa, we have Excalibur number 16, which begins the search for Betsy Braddock.
Yes.
Who is still lost somewhere in reality. The team first approaches Jamie Braddock and asks basically for the okay to go look for her. Mm-hmm. Her sister-in-law joins the hunt, Megan Braddock.
She does. I do want to point out real quick, this is after which I love that they included in this is after they filed a missing persons report with X Factor.
Yes. To
see if they could investigate and declare Betsy gone so she could be resurrected.
Yeah.
And essentially what they were like is, well, okay, A, she went in Otherworld. B, everybody reported the same things. There's no discrepancy in what happened, but the fact that she just shattered at one blow and the pieces were collected, like, we all know that shit's crazy enough, especially in Otherworld, that doesn't mean she's gone.
Yeah.
So we can't declare her dead.
Yep.
I was like, okay, that's
awesome. So they go to the spot where she broke.
Yep.
And it turns out that Megan's powers basically come from Otherworld, so she is souped up, amped up. They summon representatives of the Captain Britain Corps and explain the issue, and they're like, yeah, it was on our to-do list, but since you guys have no clue either, we're going to expedite this.
Yeah.
And then, I forget if it's the last page or a shot of the cover to the next issue, but we see...
No, it's the last page.
Okay. I read this 2 weeks ago, so... we see...
Let's say that Betsy calls for an angel in the morning.
Yeah.
Baby.
Then we have X-Men, number 16.
Yeah.
So this is... I think to call it a stage setting issue does it a disservice, but there is a lot of defining new status quo and...
Yes.
some things that have to be addressed out of Ten of Swords in this issue.
So there were a couple things I was really happy to see.
Yeah.
Like one is, there's a point where we get the dealt with the question of Jean Grey quitting the Quiet Council, right?
Yeah.
And
Apocalypse's open
right.
seat.
And essentially they, Charles and Magneto say, yes, so one thing is, we would like you quit the council, we would like you to rejoin, and it would be kind of a de facto, we would certainly vote to reinstate you. So it's not like the fact that oh, you quit so you could never be this again.
Yeah.
It's well, you made that choice, so technically we have to reelect you kind of thing. To which, yes, she says no.
And who do they want to take Apocalypse's seat?
Cyclops.
Who also says no.
And
why do they say no?
And they're like, what? Why? And they're like, because we've recognized that one of the things that is needed is the X-Men, and the X-Men are not going to be something that is necessarily sanctioned by the Quiet Council or like created by the government.
Yeah, they need the X-Men to appear as a tool of the citizens of Krakoa, not the invention of people sitting in a room making decisions.
Correct. They are essentially the team that represents the people, the citizens.
And as a result, how are they selecting their membership?
Well, how would you do that? Clearly, you would make it an election. They're going to have people propose people for membership and have a vote on it.
And the one restriction is you can't be a member of the Quiet Council and be on the team.
Correct. Yep. I love it.
So, okay. If they're having an election to vote for X-Men, I want to do this quickly. I don't want us to spend a lot of time here. But who do you think wins this vote? Who are some characters who are going to do well in the polls?
Domino for luck.
Yeah.
Right, because of her luck.
I feel like Nightcrawler. Kurt's beloved by everyone.
But he would have to quit the Quiet Council.
Oh, that's true. He is on the Quiet Council. Never mind.
And so I don't think he's going to be an option.
Yeah.
No. Oh, God damn it. Brain farting. Which I don't think is going to happen because he's currently part of X Factor, but Wolverine's son,
Daken.
Yeah, right.
I don't
Daken
think anybody likes Daken except Daken.
Well, right, but charisma wise, that's kind of his mutant power.
I think you're mistaking charisma and pheromones again.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. that may well be. Let's see. Now, who would do well? You know who might do well at this point? The Blob.
Yeah.
Right, Fred.
Yeah. I mean, he's the bartender. He's
exactly.
Everybody knows his name.
Indeed. I think he would do real well. Trying to think of who else would.
No, Storm's on the Quiet Council. A lot of the characters who would be shoo-ins are Quiet Council members.
Yes. Possible. I don't know if he would do it, but maybe Peter.
Yeah.
Right. I'll be honest. I'm super excited to see.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a wild roster.
I kind of do too.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons they're doing this as an election is so they can throw some real wild cards on there.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh no. Boom, boom.
Yes! Crossbone, yes!
We all wrote in Mr. Sinister. It was a joke. What?
Yeah.
All right. Then we move on to the other part of this book, which is the reunification between Krakoa and Arakko, which,
yes,
as it turns out, if you've lived in different dimensions for thousands of years, to the point where you're not even speaking the same language, you're not necessarily going to have a smooth, easy reunification.
One might say that they've grown apart.
Literally.
Yes.
But we learn a couple of things. Arakko has its own Shadow Council. Is that what it's called?
No.
The
God, what is
Circle.
the... Yeah, hang on. The Ring, maybe. Yep, the Ring.
The Ring. They have their own equivalent to the Quiet Council.
Yes.
With 3 houses and maybe a secret house.
I mean, definitely a secret.
Definitely
house,
a secret house.
Yes.
We also learned that there are way more Araki mutants, and that they're
And Arakko is bigger than Krakoa.
much bigger.
Yes.
And it fits with everything we've learned about like the Araki versions of the Marauders who came back. Like they're harder, they're more battle ready. Like that is indicative of all of Araki society. And
I love it when she asks them, the Great Ring, by the way, is what it's specifically called. Yeah. And she said, yeah, and it's been, it's been so for thousands of years. What's your government? And Magneto goes, it's called the Quiet Council. It's a noble body full of wise leaders who will rule for thousands of years and beyond. And she just looks at him and cocks his head and says, I see through you, mutant, all the way to the truth. You are children running a child government.
yes.
Which is, of course,
and
not to say it's a bad thing, just
where
inexperienced and prone to bear the fruit of that. Yes.
Which is kind of where this sort of leaves itself. The Iraqi government offers to step in and show Krakoa how it's done.
Yeah.
Krakoa's like, no, we're good, thank you. And so they just kind of establish detente. There is sort of a clear disdain for Krakoa letting humans still live as
correct,
more or less equals.
Yeah, she basically says humans still are here. I'm surprised that's the thing that persists here. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So a lot of stuff will come out of this issue.
Oh, yes. Like, and this is what's so fascinating to me about what Hickman and all of the creators for all the X books have set up with this is there's really not like an evil side to this, right?
Right.
There's just a side that's so different that you can easily see some people labeling it evil.
Yes.
I love this complexity.
Yeah, it's so good. Then we move on to Wolverine, which starts with a sequence. Wolverine and his new human buddy are hanging out in the backyard, drinking drinks and comparing stories about the horrible things they've had to do in war.
Yep.
And then we jump to more or less the present, where someone has broken in and stolen records relating to, what is it called? X-Team? Is that right?
I think it's
Team X?
Yeah.
And, well, as far as they know, Sabretooth is accounted for, and it wasn't Wolverine, so therefore it must be Maverick. And they tie Maverick to, and the thieves in this heist to... Do you remember from earlier issues of X-Force, the Mercs?
Yep.
Yeah, I actually had to go back and do a little rereading just to connect the dots on this one.
Gotcha.
Because we have a character in this who was a member of the Mercs, who talks about his dog Rufus. I'm like, oh shit, that's Rufus from the last X-Force issue.
Uh-huh.
And then I went back just to double check it, and there was a caption about, yeah, go back to X-Force number 5. So I went back and I reread X-Force number 5 as well. And this guy was there, and Rufus was mentioned a couple of times, although we never saw him. There was a text page where Beast talked about having reached out on his own without anyone's approval to the Mercs to see if they would come work for Krakoa if needed.
Yep.
Like all this stuff seeded more than a year ago, paying off now.
Yep.
I know next to nothing about Maverick, if I'm being honest. So like that piece is a big question mark to me, but this is again like threads from X-Force coming together here in Wolverine.
The other thing I love is we get a text page that tells us essentially that Krakoa also has
listening stones.
Yeah, organic echoes that
Yeah.
they have put in people's locations. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the other piece of this, and we get some Dakin and we get some Honey Badger, is a confrontation between Wolverine and family and Omega Red. And this was another piece where I went back and I reread part of the most recent X-Force. Like, this was the other reason I opened up that issue. Because Omega Red here insists that, no, I'm not working with the vampires. You are mesmerized, Wolverine.
Right. I didn't take you to them, and I didn't hold you down under the water of the lake.
And I went back and read that X-Force issue again, and those scenes with Omega Red. And if you reread it, there's no proof that it has anything to do with vampires. There's the device that's implanted in him that Beast replaces with a bugged version of.
Uh-huh.
But it's a lot of Wolverine saying, no, he's definitely doing this, and Beast saying, well, he definitely thinks he's telling the truth and definitely has been manipulated by someone. But there's no proof that it actually is vampires there. So there is a lot of potential in this.
Or that Omega Red actually did that to him.
It may be that Omega Red didn't actually drag him to the vampires and someone else did. Or he did.
Right.
Neither Omega Red nor Wolverine is actually a reliable source of information here.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like when he said that, I was like, I literally thought about the fact of, I wonder if I went and reread this with this knowledge, if I would see it differently, right?
The answer is yes.
Okay. Thank you for doing that for me, Alex. Now I don't have to.
You're welcome.
Yes.
All right. Anything else here?
No, other than they also established that they have what is equivalent as they call it the Shadow Room.
Mm-hmm.
Or as Logan describes it, a CSI version of the Danger Room.
Yeah.
Yes, that was cool.
I'm also going to be even more upset if Rufus is not okay.
Oh, right.
When a man's dying words are, "Is my dog okay?" The dog had better be okay.
The dog better be okay.
All right, is it still good? Something is killing the children. Erica and her 2 kid buddies take the fight to the monsters because the real monsters are the Order and are being terrible. An Unkindness of Ravens, number 4, Brian.
So our main character finds out the big secret that she has that everybody has been keeping from her the whole time. She has a confrontation with her father about it. And things are starting to make more sense slightly, but there's still a lot of questions out there. I really am digging this. I'm going to have you guys read this at some point.
Cool. Batman Superman number 15. Some days, the only way to get rid of a bomb is to drop that bomb in Slaughter Swamp, specifically when that bomb is Solomon Grundy. Batman number 50. Wonder Woman and Terry team up to stop Inc. from impersonating Batman. Wonder Woman, number 769, Brian.
Wonder Woman, Diana shows Liar Liar the truth that she needs to see.
The Department of Truth, number 4. We learn the secret history of QAnon bullshit. In related news, fuck QAnon. And Lee gives the main character a difficult choice about becoming a team member and hopefully one of the good guys. I don't know how James Tynion writes and researches this book without losing his goddamn mind. Nailbiter returns, number 8. We learn who has been pulling the strings and meet one of Warren's exes. Shang-Chi, number 4. Shang-Chi learns that maybe the only way to get through the family bullshit is to lean into the family bullshit. The Picture of Everything Else, number 1. We previewed this one a couple of weeks before it came out, but just as a reminder, this book is excellent and gorgeous. A pair of thieves/artists accidentally stumble upon a murderer who kills people by painting them and then destroying their paintings. And one of them has to become his apprentice in order for them both to live. Shadow Service number 5. Gina finally tracks down her quarry and then goes rogue from MI666. Wasted Space number 18. Maybe when you're presented with a perfect version of Earth that gives you everything you wanted, it is in fact a trap. This week's books, we got a bunch of stuff here. Both of us, surprising nobody, are very excited for Future State.
Yeah.
Coming out.
The whole thing. All of it.
A quick rundown of the books coming out this week. Harley Quinn, number 1 of 2 by Stephanie Phillips and Simone DeMeo. Yeah. Superman, number 1 of 2, with stories by Sean Lewis and John Timms, Sean Lewis and Coley Hamner, and Brandon Easton and Valentine DeLandro. Swamp Thing, number 1 of 2 by Ram V and Mike Perkins. The Flash, number 1 of 2 by Brandon Vietti and Dale Eaglesham. The Next Batman, number 1 of 4, with stories by John Ridley and Nick Darrington, Brandon Thomas and Sumit Kumar, and Paul Jenkins and Jackson Herbert, and Wonder Woman number 1 of 2 by Joelle Jones. In other releases, lest you think this is a light week,
no.
The Wrong Earth Night and Day number 1, which picks up where the first Wrong Earth series left off, by Tom Payer, Jamal Eigel, and Juan Castro. Return of the Valkyries number 1 of 4, Brian.
This is King in Black tie-in that brings back not just Jane Foster, but reintroduces the host of Valkyrie.
Eternals number 1 finally launches after a bit of a delay. This is written by Kieran Gillen with art by Isad Ribic and colors by Matthew Wilson. I'm going to say I know absolutely nothing about Eternals. There is maybe no corner of Marvel that I know less about, but this creative team is at least guaranteeing that I check it out. And finally, Brian, tell me about The Last Witch number 1.
Yeah, this is one I talked about in Solicitations that's described as a modern fairy tale from Conor McCreery, who was involved with Adventure Time. So I'm super excited about this. And it is essentially about a young witch who is, trying to discover a truth about her village and save them. Cool. And it just looked really cool. It's from Boombox.
And I believe that is it for us this week. Don't forget to check out the March Solicitations bonus episode, which should already be in your podcast feed and is up on our YouTube page as well. We would like to thank Chase Parker for our intro voiceover. You can visit us at panelologypodcast.com, support us at patreon.com/panelology, get merch at bit.ly/panelologymerch, capital P, capital M, or send us questions and comments at bit.ly/panelologymailbag, capital P, capital M. I'm Alex.
And I am Brian. Go read comics.